Okay, speaker, just give me 1 second while we're going live.
Yeah, can you let people know it's okay to record? It came up in the...
Yes, it is okay to record. If you're unable to, I will also share the link at the end. All right, and all right. Okay, Speaker Jones.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to be here with Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski, the House Chair of the Joint Committee on Cybersecurity, Delegate Pat Young, along with many of our delegates who also serve on the Joint Committee on Cybersecurity, the IT Director for Carroll County, Mark Ripper, and the Chief Information Security Officer for Montgomery County, Keith Young. Thank you for joining us today as we present a bill package that will help state and local cybersecurity teams become better prepared for attacks on our information technology systems. Every day, we're putting more of our information online. As we rely more heavily on technology, it means more frequent cyber attacks, particularly those targeting state and local governments. In 2020, Baltimore County was one of the 50 school systems across the country attacked with ransomware. This year, the state health department had a ransomware attack that crippled the agency's IT system at the height of Omicron spread. Vulnerabilities in our IT systems will continue to cost our taxpayers, and that cost is high. Cyber attacks on Baltimore County schools cost the county over $8 million. Attacks on the state health department delayed the critical data we needed to best respond to the rapidly changing health crisis. We have to do more to defend our information systems against hackers, hostile governments, and other bad actors. Marylanders should feel confident that the personal information they give to the government is secure and protected. This package will help give our state agencies and local governments every tool in the toolbox to secure our IT networks and ensure our response to a cyber attack is swift, unified, and coordinated. I want to thank the Committee on Cybersecurity, Information Technology, and Biotechnology, and our local partners for their collective effort to safeguard our IT systems and boost our cybersecurity. This package will increase coordination between state and local partners. It will increase analysis of our own weaknesses and boost investments in critical IT infrastructure. At this time, I will now turn it over to County Executive Johnny Olszewski for his remarks.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for all that you do, including your leadership on this critical issue. Good afternoon to everyone. In this digital age, cybersecurity has become an essential part of our infrastructure. And in order to prevent cyber attacks, to protect our employees, and to serve our residents best, we know that we have to follow best practices, be prepared, and yes, invest in our technology. Simply put, our IT systems must be protected to keep government services running smoothly. As the speaker mentioned, unfortunately, in recent years, our region has seen the consequences of cyber attacks, including our friends in Baltimore City government, as well as closer to home with the Baltimore County Public Schools. These attacks disrupt our services, they expose the personal information of our workforce, and they ultimately cost taxpayers millions of dollars in response efforts. And leaders have an obligation to ensure that we're learning from these attacks and working to prevent them from happening again. So in Baltimore County, we are fully supportive of this entire legislative package, and we remain committed to doing our part to improve cybersecurity. I want to again thank House Speaker Adrian Jones and Baltimore County Delegation Chair Pat Young for leading on this issue through a series of bills related to governance, oversight, and grant processes, as well as emergency response. Collectively, these are bills that will ensure our state and local government agencies are best prepared to prevent cyber attacks and to respond to them in the event they do occur. By requiring annual cybersecurity assessments for state agencies, providing funding for cybersecurity upgrades, and ensuring best practices for cybersecurity, we can better protect our state and local governments from those outside attacks. At this point, I want to again thank Delegate Young for his sponsorship, and I will turn the floor over to him for some additional comments.
Thank you, Ken Executive Olszewski, and thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to speak today. I want to make sure that when I thank the members of the Joint Committee on Cybersecurity, Biotech, and Information Technology, as well as my co-chair in the Senate, Senator Katie Fry Hester. The work that's been done over the many months since the end of the last session has been grueling, but also important, not only because of cybersecurity being an important issue that we must take on and head on together, but because this isn't a theoretical exercise in a theoretical threat. We are past day zero. We have already been attacked at the state level, at the local level. And with that in mind, it's important to recognize that there are actions that other states have taken, that other experts in the private sector are familiar with, that we have used to fashion our legislative package to modernize Maryland, to make sure that we're moving in the right direction, and that while we continue to be innovative and reach more and more citizens, that we're also keeping in mind that with innovation comes a threat, and that we're providing cybersecurity assurances that our people know that their information is secure and that the services they provide and that they receive are safe. With that, a quick overview or a quick jump into HB 1346 is the bill that deals with coordination and state governance, how the relationship between our executive agencies and our local governments moving forward. Other states have moved towards centralization, and we joined them in that move nationally, which makes it easier to address a threat, as well as makes it, at least from what we've seen, less expensive to then recover from a threat. HB 1205 addresses oversight, as well as what County Executive Olszewski had mentioned about funding, about providing resources to local governments so that we're working together, as well as sets into place moving forward how we look at cybersecurity in individual departments and make sure everyone has a place at the table. And lastly, 1202 addresses emergency response and formalizes the relationship between state government as well as local government in the event of a threat. And also we make sure that we provide our services as a state, that we're having the ability to assess as well as help our local governments move forward with their own infrastructure issues and modernization. We're more connected now than we've ever been. We have the ability to impact the lives of countless Marylanders at a level and scale that was unheard of 20 years ago, almost impossible to think about. But while we embrace innovation, we must also recognize the risks that come with it and make sure that we're modernizing our cybersecurity posture to protect our infrastructure, essential services, and the infrastructure, and the data and privacy of Maryland citizens. With that, I'll pass it to Mr. Mark Ripper, IT Director of Carroll County and the President of MACO's IT affiliate.
Thank you, Madam Jones, for having us here today. We are very much in support of the three bills that you and the other senior House members have put together. I think it's going to be a great working relationship to be with the state and the other local governments in the state of Maryland as we move forward with this. I really appreciate the fact that you've taken on this very serious and sometimes very difficult issue that we now have to deal with on a daily basis in order to protect the data, not only of the governments, but our citizens and residents, and being able to keep our services up and running. The one part of the bills that I am really impressed with is the fact that we're now going to have a fusion center to coordinate data sharing across the local governments. It's really great to know if somebody else has been attacked, that exactly what happened. Are there things that the other local governments can do immediately to protect themselves from that same type of thing and to move forward? And I really appreciate the fact that you created that center to share the information with the local governments as we move forward. So I thank you again for all the work that you've done. We really like the bills in that they help support the local governments and our IT, and look forward to the relationship that we're going to have over the next several years working on these. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
And next we will hear from Keith Young, the Chief Information Security Officer for Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I am the Chief Information Security Officer at Montgomery County Government, and I am responsible for managing the information security program across the 3 branches of government within the county. As many of you know, cyber attacks continue to increase in both frequency and negative impact to affected organizations. Phishing attacks have become a regular occurrence. Ransomware is affecting the services of critical infrastructure. And these cyber attacks are not just hitting the Fortune 100, but are causing impacts to the smallest local businesses, state, government IT systems, and counties. In fact, Montgomery County experiences nearly 15 million security events logged per day. Cyber attacks are not just theoretical, but happen every minute of every day. So based on these threats, we appreciate the recognition of House leadership on this important issue. This package of bills being discussed today is an important first step to secure our critical infrastructure, protect taxpayer personal data, and ensure continuity of essential government services. And to quote an often overused saying, a chain is only as strong as the weakest link. Unless state and counties work together to build a statewide strong chain of cybersecurity defenses, cyber attackers will find government entities who do not have the proper protections in place and use those weaknesses to attempt to gain access to connected entities like Montgomery County. An important aspect of the state cybersecurity improvement is a centralization of cybersecurity, mainly to the State Department of IT. This is critical to maintain the good, strong cybersecurity governance and oversight. When I joined Montgomery County in 2002, I moved to the centralized model of oversight and has worked well ever since. Additionally, funding and resources is a critical need. For counties to complete a Department of IT-led cyber assessment, these bills open up grant funding to improve the equipment and system upgrades that are necessary to maintain the strong protections that are needed to combat the threats I discussed before. Again, thank you very much for this opportunity to discuss this very critical topic.
All right, and with that, we'll open it up for questions. Please use the raise hand function and we'll call on you.
Hi, I have a question. David Collins, WBAL TV. I'm looking at it's $1.5 billion in bonds will finance this. I see in one of the bills, and I just want for clarification purposes. So if it is going to be funded by $1.5 billion in bonds, there's no local financial obligation?
So if I may, and apologize in advance for this, we've been working on amendments, and I'm afraid that the draft that you might have might be the one that mentions the stadium authority. That's not the direction that we're ending up going to be moving into. We have funds that have come from the federal government. We have state funds that are allocated towards this. But if you're looking at, I believe 1205, which mentions using bonding authority through this stadium authority, we've taken that out. And we're going to be funding this through funds that we've received through the federal government that we've allocated to the state. So that we're not going to be using bond funds in order to fund this.
Oh, thank you, because that's exactly what I was looking at.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
No worries.
Brian Sears.
Quick question for Keith Young. You mentioned 15 million logged security events on a daily basis in Montgomery County. Can you provide a little bit of an example of what the range of these type of events would be from, and maybe give us an idea of like what sort of the least serious to the most serious that you're seeing on a daily basis?
Sure. So the 15 million events that I mentioned could be anything from someone attempting to access our website and attempt to do an attack that would be automatically thwarted by the software that's already deployed on our web systems, all the way up to sustained attacks that we see from abroad. And they range, like I said, across that entire spectrum.
And a quick follow-up for you, Keith. You mentioned, you talked about the weakest link in the chain is the concern that some of these attacks could be successful in a county like yours by essentially getting in a backdoor through another jurisdiction who is not as up to date on their security practices as Montgomery County.
Exactly, and that's why this bill is critical, to protect the counties across the state for that exact reason. In fact, the attack that happened against Home Depot a number of years ago came in from a small single-digit HVAC contractor based out of Pennsylvania. They broke into that HVAC contracting company and then used that to break into the entire Home Depot organization. And so my concern is that the same thing could happen here if we don't strengthen across the entire length of chain.
Brian Whitty.
Hi, just to be clear on the funding piece, that it's not going to be done through bonds, but through federal money. How much and over how long? Is it still $1.5 billion, or just whatever clarity you can add to that?
Sure. And one, I think that there's a considerable, and I'm sorry for not having the number right in front of me, but in terms of funds that we've received, ARPA funds, as well as funds that we have allocated through surplus funding, that's already been allocated in the budget. We believe that we can fund, one, what we're moving towards with our governance structure, as well as what services we can provide through Do It with these funds. And then moving forward, other administrations and other folks will have to also take into consideration the needs at that time in terms of how much it will cost to move forward for infrastructure. So we believe we have a good start here with the funds that we have, and moving forward, making sure that we're working within budget parameters instead of setting a tone or a number today where the number might be different in 2 or 3 years from now.
Okay, I'm not seeing